boys to the yard and they're like, it's better than yours, damn right, it's better than yours. You, but I have to charge my milkshake brings all the boys.
How do I work this newfangled device?
How do I turn this off? Don't make me mute you.
All we're gonna do is listen to this today. What is fix it. Hold on.
So apologies for the late start. We had some technical difficulties.
Clearly.
I'm having some problems with my sound too. So I'm. If you see me like squinting, it's because I think if I squint, I'll be able to hear better. So.
Also because she likes to get a closer look at me.
Yes, also that.
Hey, Size Queen Saturdays is back. Touch your breath. Size Queen Wednesday evenings is back.
We're popping Wednesday's cherry.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
There's a first time for everything Wednesday. You know what? It's Wednesday. It's business time.
Oh.
I'm Sarah, Nerd in Oregon, and this is my little-known co-host.
Sarah. Less of Sarah.
And our guest today is someone who's just too stinking adorable for words. Can you get over how pretty she is?
No, she's beautiful.
I'm actually going to lock her. You know how on Hangouts you can lock it so you can just, like, focus on one person no matter who's talking?
Yeah, I usually do that to you so I can just look at you.
Yeah, today I'm doing it to Lacy. I heart Lace, R-N-Y.
Oh.
Lace, tell them where else they can find you.
I'm I Heart Lace, R-N-Y on YouTube, and then on Facebook, just Lace, R-N-Y, L-A-C-E space R-N-Y.
And when did you have your surgery? What's your date?
October the 23rd of 2013. So I'm about 10 months post-op.
10 months. And how much have you lost, Lacy?
Oh, gosh. I should have calculated. As of this morning, I'm at about 188 pounds. Sorry.
Awesome. Congratulations. What was your starting weight?
380 pounds was my highest.
Wow.
That is spectacular. I think we need to applaud for that. Just me applauding.
So what we're talking about today is what apparently everyone else is talking about. I got messages all over the ding-dong place. Oh, my eye's twitching. You made a great video series, 5 videos. Though every video you were like, this is going to be my last video. And as I was watching it, I was like, spoiler alert, you make 3 more.
It reminds me of myself a little bit. I'm going to make a short video 5 hours later. But anyway.
Famous last
I always
words.
do that with my regular videos, too. I always say, I'm going to be short and sweet this time, and then it'll be like 20 minutes long.
I could have watched another 5 videos, though, honestly. It was that good, I thought.
I could have made another 5 videos.
Apparently, I just got a message, Spoon, that we're locked on you. So, there we are. Now you can see the rest of us.
Hey, whoever said that, why are you trying to stop that from happening? Consider it a gift.
Well, the person who messaged me might have, ulterior motives for me not being locked on you, so.
I have a Red Rover injury. I have a big old knot. Can you guys see it? Red Rover NSV/worst idea ever. Anyway, actually, Red Rover was one of the few playground games that as a fat girl you had good luck at. Because, like, no one was stopping this train. Anyhow.
True enough.
Anyhow, we're going to talk about Lace's series about how not to F up your life after weight loss surgery. Can I just say what I liked about it, and probably the reason that we immediately were like, we have to talk more about this, is because
what you said, which was actually before she goes on Fat Kings, we need to get on that first and scoop them. That's actually
we gotta get that shit because TJ will sober up soon and realize that something's happening in the community.
We can't.
I love you, TJ. I love you, TJ. You know that comes from the heart. Anyway. So I watched all 5 videos. If you haven't, definitely do it after you see this, but I think you can definitely follow along if you haven't watched all 5, if you watched none or just a couple. So give like a quick 45-second recap of what happened to Lacy and why you started making the videos.
Okay, so whenever I had my surgery, I obviously got involved with the Facebook and YouTube community. I got involved a little bit too much, too quick, too fast, too trusting in a relationship with someone in the community. And I spent about 6 months in that relationship before figuring out that it was definitely not the way to go. I was married at the time. I decided to leave my husband and, part ways with him during this time. But after those 6 months, I kind of realized that this wasn't right for me. Later on, I kind of found out that there were multiple things going on and multiple reasons why it definitely wasn't right for me. So I think that I got caught up in the emotions and all that, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But it was a really huge mistake, and it almost cost me basically my family and everything that, not just my husband, but my family. My family wasn't behind it either, so it would have been just disastrous. So that's as quick as I can break it down.
Yeah, no, that's good enough that the people that if they didn't watch the videos yet, or if they aren't all the way done, they have an idea of where we're starting from. So a bunch of people ask questions, and I'm going to get to those. But just so you know, I took some notes while I was watching and had some questions to talk about, because I haven't heard a lot of criticism about your videos. People, whether they like you or not, whether they supported you or not, appreciated the honesty and the vulnerability. And I just want to say up front, I think it takes a shit ton of courage to go through something like that publicly and not disappear permanently, to come back and face it and use it as a cautionary tale. No matter how you feel about the situation specifically, I think that takes an amazing amount of courage, and give big ups to you for that, no matter what anyone thinks about the situation. Big ups for just facing it like a woman. And yeah. So my first question is, one of the things you talked about is, you were faced with a situation where you had to choose between this other person. We have to give them a fake name because I'm afraid we won't. We'll just the other person and your husband, and you were faced with this question. Did you ever feel like it was multiple choice question, A, current spouse, B, other person? Sometimes in your video I felt like those were your choices. Was option C, Lacy, ever a choice, or did you really feel like you had to go one way or the other, and did you consider neither? Was that something you considered?
Yes. I didn't get into that. I guess that could have been part 6. I kind of talked a little bit. I didn't want to get too far into, just to kind of, give you guys some information. My husband has definitely wanted to be a part of the community, and we're just kind of getting him out there and introducing him to everything. I didn't want to blast him and kind of give all kinds of information about our marriage previous to this, but it definitely had its problems. He's not perfect, and I'm not perfect, and so we both have had to struggle through some different things. So yes, choosing just me was an option at that time. It's just that I kind of rushed out there and kind of rushed and clung on to this idea of happiness and this idea of love. The tips that I give, finding happiness in yourself first, rather than depending on other people to kind of build you up and make your happiness for you. But I did that way too quickly. I decided to rely on other people to make me happy instead of me making me happy. So I probably didn't pay enough attention to that option. But it wasn't like everything was perfect at home and I just decided to run out and be all scandalous and choose this relationship community. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just, me being selfish and greedy and everything. There were truly, honestly, needs that were not being met.
Sure.
Problems that needed to be addressed, and it forced us to address those problems, and we're still addressing them. So.
Yeah, I was thinking, and that's great. That's good information. I was thinking where you talk a lot about these red flags and the series of things you saw happening, and all of a sudden you realize you didn't want to be with this other person. And I was curious. I think that as people that have obesity issues, codependency is a pretty big issue in the community as well. I mean, that's just part of the series of emotional issues that result in obesity for a lot of people. That when you decided that this other person wasn't the right person, the way it sounded in your story to me, and I just wanted to get clarification, is that you then went back to your husband. And at that time, you also considered, what if I had neither of them?
Yeah, yeah. I think that all along, you know, once I went headfirst into this relationship, I felt like at one point that I had gone so far there wasn't really any turning back. But once I started thinking about it and kind of I came crashing down from all this and realizing that this wasn't good for me and this wasn't good for my future, I started to think, you know, have I really given him, my husband, the chance that he deserved before deciding to get out? You know, I could have made the decision at that point to just continue down the path just by myself. But I really felt like, you know, and I kind of addressed this in my videos, I hadn't really been fair to him. I hadn't really told him what the needs were that he wasn't meeting. I just kind of weather things on my own and just kind of buckle down, and I was silent about things. I didn't tell him how, you know, we were neglecting each other or what it was I needed. And I had discluded him from the entire process, the entire weight loss surgery process. I just kind of went off into my own into the guest room and made my videos and, you know, talked to the community and stuff. And I just left him over here on the sidelines. And so, you know, I had my doubts at the time if we were going to be able to work through things, but I was like, I really haven't given him a chance. So at the very least, I have to go back and give him a chance. And that's all he wanted to. He'd just been asking for the chance to show me that, you know, he was ready to be in this for real. And that all those years of kind of just being in survival mode and being roommates with each other could be over, and that we actually had a chance to, like, stick it out.
Sarah, I know that you and I have both been through divorces since weight loss surgery. Do you have thoughts on that too, about when you have feelings for someone else, that there's option A, spouse, option B, other person, option C, is Sarah an option? Like, neither of them. Did you ever feel like that?
Yes and no. For me, just in my situation, I felt like as soon as I made the decision to end my marriage, I was choosing me. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I made the decision to end my marriage before starting this other relationship, technically speaking. I mean, we were friends, but I didn't realize that there was more than that, and there was never, like, physically more than that or anything. So, and there was no discussion of feelings at all. And
community. I absolutely know that to be true because she tells me everything, and I would have eaten it up if she told me that she was.
So, I mean, I deliberately chose to end my marriage before even saying anything about the feelings that I had, because I didn't want it to be a situation where I was like, oh, well, if you don't feel the same way, then I'll just go back to this. Like, I wanted it needed to be done, and I needed to finish that first. But there was no pause in between.
Right.
And I don't know that there could have been, just because of our situation. We were already so close. We already spoke every day. It wasn't like I could be like, well, just give me 6 months to sort my life out, and then we can be together. You know, I couldn't ask for that. I didn't feel that I could ask for that. And, you know, in hindsight, maybe I made the wrong decision of how I handled it at the time. I'll never know. As Will is fond of saying, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. I mean, it doesn't matter now, but I'm happy with the way things are working out. So, but I felt like I was choosing myself. Even though I chose then to be with someone else, I felt like that was a choice I made for me. Yeah.
I think I know for my situation, when everyone knows, well, I don't know if everyone knows, but they're about to, that I met WAF before I asked for the divorce, but we just met at a convention and talked in the lobby all night. Like, there was no anything, there was no profession of of interest or certainly love or anything like that. We just stayed up all night talking like teenagers. And I came home and I said, if I want to do that with other people, like, then clearly my marriage was, I had no idea if Waffle was even interested in me when I asked for the divorce. So there was no leaving him for other people. But it is like, I mean, I could have left my husband and Chris could have said, "Ha, I wish we would have slept together. That would have been a fun fling. Gotta go." Like, it could have been anything. So it's hard. It's hard. But yeah,
our situation was pretty much the same in that sense, where we both, that was meeting someone else or discovering you had feelings for someone else was the catalyst to end something that should have already been over. But it's just, you needed to be in a place where you were brave enough to do it, and you needed something to make it obvious that it needed to be done. At least I know that's how it was for me.
I think that almost makes Lacy, your situation, what you did, so much. I think it takes a lot of courage to do what you did. I think that, and this is one of the questions I'm curious about. You talked about just now feeling like maybe you had gone so far you couldn't go back. Like you were all in at one point and there was no going back. I'm curious about the role surgery had in giving you the courage to stop the train and take accountability. Do you feel like having a relationship with someone else was something you would have done before surgery, given the existing marital issues? And then a follow-up to that is, do you feel like having the courage to stop a situation that you realized wasn't right, even though you were 30 miles down the track, is something you would have had the courage to do without surgery?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that being in another relationship, I definitely probably wouldn't have done before the weight loss surgery, just because of how I isolated myself, and you know, I was so bad. I was so unhappy. I wouldn't make eye contact with people. I wouldn't really let people connect with me. I was just, it's the closest thing that I can compare to living in a prison. And so, you know, even just the period going into surgery, I had lost 30 pounds. So just even those 30 pounds had made a huge difference. And, you know, the relationship started literally like a week after surgery. Well, not the relationship, but the beginnings of the relationship started about a week after surgery. But I was already in that headspace of, this is actually going to work. This is working. There's changes. My body's changing already. And, you know, I was already starting to feel a little bit more confident in myself. So, no, I do not think that I would have made the choice before surgery. Also, just the, you know, and we'll probably touch on this a little bit more, but the emotions during that time. I mean, to tell you, the week after surgery, I was crying one second, giggling the next second. I mean, that was the most vulnerable time that I think, if I think back through my entire life, that was probably the most vulnerable time in my whole lifetime. So I think that the timing also had something to do with it. If I had been 3 or 4 months out, or even a month out, you know, would it have ended up the same way? I don't know. I mean, I tend to doubt it. And then the second part of your question, the courage to stop it, I believe that's not something new for me. I think that I've always been, you know, like I said, whenever I sat down and thought about who I am as a person and whether these decisions were lining up as who I was as a person before surgery, and the answer to that was no. I think that before surgery I would have still had the courage to stop it.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up, and this is probably difficult to answer because I don't think any of us want to think of things this way, but I know that a lot of people are concerned, and a lot of people have talked to me about this too, about the idea that when you are in that space where, especially coming from the sort of weights that we came from, where you aren't getting maybe the attention from men or from the opposite sex, and you know, suddenly you are, or even from one person, you're getting something that you're not getting in your marriage or you haven't gotten before, that somehow you kind of get caught up in that, and that those feelings aren't real. Now, I don't think that that's always true, but in hindsight now, do you feel like that had something to do with it, or do you feel like your feelings were 100% true, you just misconstrued the person that you were with.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest here. I freaking ate that crap up. I ate the attention up. It was like, holy crap. I mean, he's not the only one that paid attention to me after surgery. And there for a while, just, post-op, a month or two, I ate it up. It was like being in the desert, and then all of a sudden you're at this oasis. And it's like everybody's noticing you. And it's kind of freak out. And yeah, I ate it up. I did. I'm gonna be honest. I think a lot of people in the community eat it up. I don't think that they would admit to it, but I think that,
I still do.
I was like, I still do.
I still do. Bitch, please, a man wants to look at me, I'll let him.
Yeah, it gives you, it kind of tickles your soul or something, it's like you go from not getting any attention at all or very random, seldom attention to that. Yeah, I think it was a big catalyst in getting me into the relationship. I'll be honest and say that once I was in, the feelings that I was feeling were true and authentic. Like, I totally was all in.
Right.
After a while. But I think that the attention was definitely a catalyst. The need for attention was definitely a catalyst in getting me into the relationship, yes.
Well, thank you for being honest about that, because I think that's something that a lot of people are concerned about, and rightfully so. And I mean, I'm sure we'll all talk about this later, but that's one thing that you do have to be careful of, is thinking about why you're reacting in a certain way to things. And that's not just about relationships, that's about anything that happens in that crazy post-surgery emotional time, when sometimes it's easy to make decisions just based on the fact that people are treating you differently, whether that's positive or negative. So,
right. Well, and I think that the attention is, you need to be aware that you're going to be getting more attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for me, at least, it's not that I didn't expect that. I just had never gotten attention before, so I was surprised at how I reacted to it. I was like, oh, people will pay me more attention. I didn't realize how good it felt.
Yeah.
And so that's something, I think, to prepare yourself, that it's almost like a drug, and you have to think about whether or not you're addicted to the drug or the actual person feeding the lines, right? You know what I mean? And that was something that definitely took me by surprise. I still love it, though. I will never get enough people telling me how good I look.
Well, and
Waffles 3.5 years out, and when someone tells him how good he looks now, he still is like a little bit like, oh, hello.
And I don't think that makes you a bad person just because you like the attention. I think
human
people
nature.
don't like to admit it. Because they somehow think that that makes me vain or selfish or I don't know, whatever. I don't think that makes you a bad person. I think skinny people like attention too.
Yeah, absolutely.
People ever struggled with weight like attention. I mean, that's
it's more your reaction to it. And if your decisions are based on that, then that's when it starts to cause a problem. But just liking it is like, who wouldn't like it?
I mean, and it's not just, a little bit of that is just biology. I mean, look at, like, training animals even, or raising children. I mean, positive encouragement and positive feedback gets a response. Like, it does. It doesn't matter what species you are even. But, anyway. Let's talk about how we're like dogs. I don't know what that was about.
Are you saying we're bitches? Because that's true. Well, I mean, at least you and I.
So funny. I'm going to get to that later. One thing you talked about in the video, and this is not everyone will care about this question, but a number of people will, and it might be, I don't want it to seem like an attack or aggressive, but you were at WSFA last April in Tampa. And a number of us, we both were, Sarah and I were, and a number of people watching this video were. One of the comments was that we all thought it was weird that you guys didn't make an effort to hang out with us. And like, I came over to you guys a couple of times a day, like I tried to engage, and it was just like, I don't know if I was afraid that I wasn't welcome, or I don't know what it was, but I felt like we tried to talk to you, and we expected that you would hang out with us at least some of the time. and then it really felt like you guys were on an island most of the time. And I just wanted you talked about that a little bit, but I was just curious about how much of that was you feeling controlled and how much was you coming to terms with how you felt about the relationship and what that was. What's that about? Because usually after weight loss surgery, people want to hang out and party, and it was like you guys thought you were going to a church convention.
Oh my.
Sorry, was that too correct? I was just curious because not because I have a problem. I certainly don't have a problem with you, but it's just so counter to the way most weight loss surgery patients act at a weight loss surgery event. It's like you're finally with your people. You know what I mean? And so it was very curious behavior to me. Was it to you, Sarah? I mean, we talked about it, so I know it was. Don't say it wasn't.
No, I mean, I had an inkling that I knew why, which was true. I didn't think that it had to do with Lacy, to be honest. And I mean, I was a little disappointed because I was wanting to like talk to Lacy a little bit more and whatever. But yeah, I had a feeling about what it was about, so I kind of, yeah. I'll let Lacy talk about it, but.
Yeah, like I specifically mentioned in that video, I was like, they probably think I'm the snottiest bitch ever. Like, I've just totally blown my chances of ever being friends with any of these people. Yeah, I kind of mentioned in my videos about, like, the controlling issues and stuff like that, and, you know, I was struggling with the end of the relationship. I knew that was coming. You know, I knew here we were, like, out and about at the social event, like, out as a couple, and I knew that crap was going to end. And so I knew that wasn't the place to do it, that it needed to be a conversation between me and the other person and not in front of an audience. So I was struggling with that, absolutely. But there's also kind of like the control issues. When I'm in a relationship, I'm all in. Like, I try whatever I can do to make the other person happy. And for some reason, making that person happy at the time was me being all about him. The attention had to be 100% on him. I couldn't hug people. I couldn't go up to people. There was even a time whenever, you know, I tried multiple times, because, you know, you guys were all out at the pool all day long and stuff. There was multiple times when I was like, let's go out there to the pool. Let's go talk to them. Let's do this. And it was just no. And so I felt like instead of making waves at the time, that I would just kind of try to ride it out and just try to, you know, connect one-on-one with whoever I could at the time. We did hang out with some really great people there, and so, you know, I really did have a good time. But at the same time, you know, I had gone to meet and to talk to certain people, you know, like certain people that I felt like I was getting to know on YouTube and certain people that I got to know on Facebook and stuff like that. And you know, there's really no excuse other than I just let myself kind of be manipulated or controlled in a way. So, and like Sarah said, there was reasons behind that. There was reasons why, you know, making those connections were, in his mind, not kosher. So, for me, to make those connections, so.
Well, let it be known that we all wanted to talk to you more. I didn't think you were snobby. I just thought you were like super wrapped up in your new relationship and didn't get to see each other very often. But I was super bummed to not talk to you more. So that question was really more for me. You're welcome, community.
Well, I'm gonna try to at the event in April, and I'm gonna try to be on the cruise too. So it's on next time.
It's on the website now, so I can say I'm super excited. We are going to WLSFA next year because WAF's the MC for the event. And do you know?
Oh, yay!
You're my hero.
You know how much I love Carney Wilson? Did you see our family? I am working on getting our family to Von Trapp style hold on. They're getting into it. There's the part out of the breakdown when all 6 of us are in the car. It's like we do it every time all 6 of us are in the car. There's a part after the breakdown where everyone claps like this. It's such good stuff.
We did have a hold on sing along at the Spoon Waffle wedding reception. I'm just saying.
Because I grabbed to the mic and I said, sometimes I drink a little and then I like to sing Wilson Phillips. And then I did.
It was delightful.
Okay, next question. This is also a little bit for me. One of the things you say in the video is to not allow emotions to be a decision-making factor. And I was curious about this because people are very different people. Some people are thinkers, some people are feelers, some people use their emotions more, some people don't. And I have to admit, as someone that Myers-Briggs-wise is like a super feeler, like I basically don't ever use my brain. I was curious. Waf just came in and nodded at me. He was like, she never uses her brain. As a super feeler, I was a little bit like, I don't know, it stung a little. Like, I was like, I don't know how to make choices without letting my emotions play in a little bit, because my emotions are my gut check. For some people, their brain is their gut check, and my emotions are my gut check. And I was curious if you identify as someone that uses their brain more or heart more to begin with, because you seemed really taken aback by the fact that emotions were part of your decision-making process. Like, you rejected it really, like, holistically. Like, don't feel and do things at the same time. And I was like, I will never do anything.
Well, I didn't mean to totally declare that. I think what I was trying to say is let that be, like, one part.
Okay.
You know, you do want feelings to be one part in the decision, but you want to make sure that those feelings line up with logic, and also kind of like your beliefs and who you are as a person. Because I felt really strongly that weight loss surgery shouldn't change my personality. I mean, it might unveil some things and I might be more confident and let things shine through more, but it shouldn't necessarily like change my personality and who I am. So, you know, I was trying to kind of like go back and be like, well, what would I have done, you know, 100 pounds ago? You know, who was I then? Because I should still be the same person now. So is it the feeling that's causing me to make this decision? And my answer to that was absolutely. I was writing that whole thing out on just feelings alone. And I feel like I'm a super feeler too. I'm right with you. I'm all heart, no brains. Seriously. So, you know, that advice was more for me than anything. That I can't base my decisions 100% on emotion. I have to make sure that those emotions, you know, emotions, like I said, they're wonderful. Like, I just love people that are like super emotional. I love to laugh and cry and just be, you know, I'm a little high strung, to be honest with you, but but it can't be the only thing. You know, there has to be some head and some that up. So I mean, that's kind of what the point that I was trying to get across. So.
No, that's good, because I wondered, you know, sometimes when people realize they make a mistake, like I have a friend that came out as an alcoholic, and now he's against anyone drinking ever. Yeah. And I'm like, maybe you've gone a little too far. Maybe there's a place in the middle where we could meet. Yeah. So it was curious to me that you seemed so like anti-making love choices about emotions, and I was like, really like, I'm not really sure. Like, if you can make a relationship choice without letting emotion play into it a little bit, right? So, okay, that's good. Sarah, you look like you're squinting at me. Is it because you're taking me all in? Like
I'm just taking it all in. No, I was just thinking to myself.
Like a whole drink of time to unwind?
Yes. I was thinking to myself how interesting it is, because I am very emotional, but when it comes to decision making, I'm usually very logical. I want to like go with my gut, but I have to think about the 8,000 permutations. And Chris and I have actually had discussions about the fact that that's probably why we never realized that there were feelings, because we're both super like logical when it comes to decision making. And like literally I was like, so I'm getting a divorce and I have feelings for you. You take 3 days and think about it, because I know you and I know that's what you're going to have to do, because you're going to have to think about everything that could happen before you say anything. Like, I knew he wasn't just going to be like, yes. He was going to be like, you know what, let me think about that for a little while. So it's funny because I'm although I'm a very emotional person, when it comes to decision making, I'm not. So I'm sort of the opposite of you guys in a way, because I have to like think about every little thing before I do it. It doesn't mean my decision making is any better. In fact, sometimes it's worse
because I told you you were in love with Chris 3 months before you decided you were.
Yeah, well,
So I was like, you do realize that you're in love with them, and you're like, no, let me think about that, and here are my 5 reasons I'm not. And I'm like, okay.
There's also that.
There's also that. Okay.
Spoon was right. Spoon was right. There, I said it.
Say it again. Say it again.
Sarah Waffle, you were correct, as you always are.
I'm going to make that my ringtone every time you call or text me. It's going to say that. Anyway, one thing I wanted to talk about is, you know, all of us are pretty involved in Facebook and YouTube and have met a number of people also involved in it. And one thing I was curious about is I've come to this place where this might sound kind of snobby, and I don't mean it to. It's just for my own protection because I am vulnerable. I don't always invite people into my life unless they've been vetted, right? Like, I want to know that someone else that I trust has interacted with them and it's all good and it's okay to spend time with them or really invest, because I feel like I'm super vulnerable to wearing my heart on my sleeve and investing too soon. Do you feel like, how do you feel like that plays into now, the difference between before and now, interacting with people? And did you feel like the person you were in a relationship with was vetted at all? And if they were, like later when you talk to people, do you feel like having someone that was vetted would have made a difference? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. To me, because I was a newbie coming into the community, and I thought they were vetted. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they were a big presence from what I could see. As a newbie. So I thought they were, but at the same time, you know, I was at square one, and that was my first person, really,
right,
that I connected to. So, you know, to me, yeah, I trusted them. And there weren't, because the relationship took hold so quickly, I wasn't necessarily allowed to make a ton of other connections. So you know, it took me a while to build my little circle. Now, there have been several people that were there kind of with me from the beginning. But, yeah, I think it would have made a big difference. I don't know, though, that's kind of perception, though, who's vetted and who's not, really. I think that in order to have really a trust in someone, you would have had to have, like, spent a lot of time with them, a lot of I hate to say face-to-face time because, you know, we can't always do that. Though. Across the country and stuff. Face-to-face world, or them being a part of your world and seeing how they interact with people and seeing who they truly are in their setting to really know and trust a person. That's a big lesson that I learned. I just kind of trusted what I saw.
No, that's kind of where I was going with that, is I think that the danger, and this isn't really associated with weight loss surgery as much as the danger of being involved in any online community, is that developing a relationship with someone online that you haven't spent a lot of time with in person, that also hasn't spent a lot of time with other people in person,
right,
can be an issue. Like, you can be anyone you want online, you know? Yeah. And so there is, especially when you're super vulnerable to the positive encouragement, and someone can be all words and no reality. And so almost having that person vetted in real life before you fully invest relationship-wise is more important, because you're extra susceptible to the words. People are susceptible anyway, but I think right after surgery you're extra susceptible.
I totally feel that.
Absolutely. And
go ahead, Lacy.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, even going through what I've been through, like, I still don't trust myself. I absolutely don't trust myself with making decisions about people's character and judgments on who's really, you know, what people's motives are. You know what I mean? Even after making the videos and stuff, I've had a lot of PMs and a lot of people reaching out to me and stuff like that. And, you know, my biggest thing with making the videos was wanting to help other people, and I hope that that's being accomplished here. But I still really don't trust myself in, you know, people approaching me and saying certain things and building me up and being all positive. I'm just like, I don't know. Should I, you know, are you a friend? Are you not a friend? I don't know. So I really don't trust myself. So, you know, what you were saying before about somebody you trusting them, that would have probably been a good idea for me as well.
Well, and
now
you know, Sarah can attest to the fact that it's not even about people of the other gender. I invited someone to our wedding reception that I hadn't met yet, but had interacted with quite a bit, and I straight up texted her, and I was like, "Is this person good? Like, is that?" And it wasn't even a man. It was just someone I hadn't met yet, who, by the way, is amazing. I love her, but I feel extra vulnerable because of having surgery and being somewhat public, and people feeling like they know me, and I don't trust myself either. And that's not even about having a sexual response. It's legitimately about, are people around me trustworthy?
Even when Sarah and I met the first time, she admitted that I think you said to Ty, or he said to you, like, what if you guys don't like each other? Or like that we were both like a bit nervous that like somehow, well, we had this like amazing friendship connection that when we were actually together, that it wasn't going to be the same thing, which clearly it was. But and I don't think I really worried about that, but I know in my own relationship, I really think part of the reason, again, that I didn't realize there was more to our relationship was because we didn't spend that much time face-to-face together. So, I mean, we spent time in Tampa together, but it wasn't, while there were times that were, I don't even think there were times that it was really one-on-one, but let's just say it was not the same thing. But then being in Boston and spending time with him alone and in his home and with his friends and with our friends, then I think that's why I realized, oh, okay, wait a minute, this is what this would be like. And I think that's how I kind of got to the point where I could be like, oh my God, like something's going on. I don't think I could let myself before that because I didn't feel comfortable in having those feelings about someone I'd never really even spent time alone with. So, I mean, it's interesting because I think that actually had a lot to do with the timing of my realization of my feelings.
Lacy, do you feel like if your relationship with this person had started in person, it would have gone the same place? Or do you feel like some of the anonymity of being able to drink in the words without everything else allowed it to go where it was?
Oh, absolutely the latter. Absolutely. Because, you know, we spent a little bit of time together, but most of our time was on, you know, messaging and texting and stuff like that, social media, that sort of thing. I'll be honest and say the Tampa trip, you know, although I was already having doubts before going into that trip, the trip sealed the deal, basically. Just seeing him in his element, in what I thought was his element, with all these other people in the community who I thought were great friends, you know, and seeing him like kind of interact or not interact and stuff like that, that was definitely, and us together interacting with people, and how I was kind of, you know, not allowed to do certain things, or, you know, like I kind of talked about in my video, not allowed to wear certain things or look a certain way, you know, that kind of sealed the deal. It was like, I can't live a life like this.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't, you know, this is going to be my everyday if I don't stop this now. And so, you know, definitely, like you said, spending time with the person in their world, or spending time together out in public with people that you know, is really telling about a person.
Super telling. I made Chris meet my friends, all my friends, not all my friends, but kind of my core group of friends that I hang out with on a regular basis the very first time he came up here, because I was like, they are my, like, if they don't like you or if they see red flags, I'm going to listen, because I trust those people, and frankly, I don't always trust myself right now. So absolutely. I want to move on now that we're probably like 4 hours in to the questions that people left, either that gave to you directly. Lacy gave us a couple of questions that were asked of her, or that were posted on Facebook. And the first one comes from Aaron VSG, and this is to all of us. Do you think things would have worked out differently relationship-wise if we hadn't had surgery or if we had not been overweight our whole life? Lacy, why don't you start?
Oh, good question. I think that I wouldn't have been in the mental state that I was in the hunger and the thirst for attention and love if I hadn't been overweight. So I definitely think that all the emotions after surgery played a huge part in it. I know people. I noticed that somebody made a comment about the alleged the alleged hormonal crap that goes on after surgery.
There, because I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
Just for everyone watching, there's nothing alleged about that. That's a scientific fact. Ask Uncle Google. When you lose weight, your hormones are stored in your fat. And when you lose weight, your emotions.
Shush your tush. You're like questions ahead. God, when my bitch gets out of line, I just want to smack her.
But yeah, the emotions
in a good way.
And my insecurities about being obese played a huge part in it. So I think that if I wasn't obese, that I would have had the courage and the confidence to address the problems in my marriage when they came up, more so than, being obese, it had become, like I said, it's like living in a prison. It had become like, I can't stand up for myself. I can't say anything. I'm the fat girl that nobody really wants to listen to. And so I let that kind of overpower my personality, everything. And so I never really came out and said, hey, this is not right. You shouldn't treat me that way, or I deserve better. There was never any moments like that. So absolutely, I think it would be completely different if I hadn't been obese. And I was obese pretty much all my life, from my teenage years on. So.
I had a follow-up question, but I forgot it. Maybe I'll remember it while you're talking, and I'm just glaring lovingly at you.
Lovingly is staring at me. It's really hard for me to speculate about, like, if I wasn't overweight, how would things be different? I was overweight my whole life. I remember talking in a video about how, like, from the very first memories I have of, like, having thoughts about myself and my body was that there was something wrong with me. So it's really hard to kind of think about, like, well, would I have ended up, married young if I wasn't overweight? And there's so much wrapped up in that. I mean, I don't think weight loss surgery had anything to do with the end of my marriage. Really, my marriage was over before that. And I don't know that being overweight really had anything to do with the problems that we had in our marriage. I mean, we've had a lot of post-mortem discussions, and none of them revolve around being overweight or anything like that. We both had issues that are rooted in, early childhood and our parents and all of those things, not to get, like, all psychological, but, so yeah, sure. Some of the development of my personality definitely had to do with the fact that I was always overweight. But I can't really blame that on ending my marriage or blame losing weight on ending my marriage. It just wasn't right anymore for me. I'm sure there are people for whom it may have had something to do with their breakup or divorce or whatever. I just don't feel like I'm one of those people. So,
Lacy, I remembered my follow-up question, and it really doesn't apply to you, Sarah, though I thought your answer was spectacular. Nice work. Lacy, do you feel, so you took a hiatus after Tampa and after the breakup, you took a hiatus from Facebook and YouTube. Did you, do you feel like were you doing that to stabilize your relationship? Do you feel like your relationship's in the clear now? Or, I know that every marriage, I'll get to this too, every marriage, like, you're never 100% in the clear. But did you take that time to, like, regroup and stabilize and make sure that you were good before you came back out? Or do you still feel like you have a ton of work to do? Like, why come back out now, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I did take that time, not only to address my relationship with my husband, because he felt, obviously, that all of this was casual relationship, which so you know, he felt very strongly that I needed to back away, that I needed to just completely delete my page, and that, you know, I didn't want to, that I shouldn't be in it. He got to a point where he was like, okay, if you're in it, let me be a part of it too. And you know, I kind of let him know that you know, to be honest with you, part of the reason why I backed away from the community as well was kind of like, I thought there was going to be a backlash too. I had made this decision to end this very public relationship, you know, and I thought that all the adoring fans of this person, and there were a lot, would basically blame me. I felt like I was in a place where I had met him, broken his heart, and then sent him on his way. You know, like that I not only hurt my family, but I hurt him too. And so there was a lot of guilt from that as well. And so I was trying not to live this whole saga out publicly. And so that's why I backed away. But unfortunately, in my life, I have a group of very good friends, but the amount of the support that I was getting from the community, you know, I felt that void almost immediately. Just being able to talk every day about, you know, WLS BS. I mean, you know, we talk about like the most random stuff, but it applies to us all when we have such a common ground with each other. So, you know, that was hurtful. But yes, we took time out. We addressed things. We went to counseling. Am I going to say that we're 100% in the clear? No. Like you said, marriage is hard work all the time. We're not at 100%. We're still working through our issues. But, you know, I think one thing that has helped us is that there's some transparency now in the community with him.
And I do want to say, I already gave you props because I think you're courageous, but I cannot say enough how courageous I think your husband is to not be possessive of you and say, no, you don't get to be back because I can't ever trust you again. Mm-hmm. To allow you to not only come back to the community, not that you're allowed anything, but to be okay with it, to be genuinely okay with it, to be okay with you telling your story, which must be hurtful for him to hear. He can't enjoy talking about it. And also really courageous of him to want to be a part of it, knowing that this had happened without him. And I just wanted to take a second to say big ups to him too, because that takes a real man who really cares about you and knows that you need that community and is willing to be a part of it and to allow that to happen. So
that's totally true. He knows that I need this. He knows that I need this, and so he's okay with me being a part of the community. He also knows that, you know, I made the choice. He knows I chose him. You know, ultimately I chose him, and I chose to give this another chance. And I think that a part of him always kind of wanted to be a part of this with me, and I just hadn't allowed it up until this point. But he is very, oh my gosh, in the last year, as much as I've changed and, you know, the progress that I've made, he has made tons of progress as well. I mean, he's just amazing. He's just amazing now. It's like I'm with the person that I married all over again. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you kind of get bogged down by...
We're Facebook friends now. I feel like we're like this. We go way back to like yesterday.
Yeah, he's getting more friend requests than me. There's a lot of people who aren't even friends with me that are friend requesting him. So I'm
Facebook
like,
keeps trying to get me to friend him, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to, you know. But now I'm going to be like totally like, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. Also, I'm extremely good looking.
I'm actually planning to do a Q&A video with him, so that I can kind of like properly introduce him and stuff, so you guys can get to know him a little bit better. So that'll be in the works.
So I'm gonna answer the question. Wait, I haven't answered the question yet, Sarah.
I know. I have a follow-up from the comment, so I don't know. It was about what Lacy was just talking about. So do you want to answer first, or do you want me to ask her?
Yeah, no, go ahead and ask her.
Okay. Well, Lacy, you kind of answered this a little bit already, but that fat chick asked, Lacy, how do you deal with people not being your friend and gossip when the relationship ended? So you said in your video the relationship that you had with this person ended, and you kind of went away from the community for a while, and then you found out things, unsavory things that had been happening during your relationship and afterwards, and also that this person was spreading gossip about you or talking about you behind your back. which I can say I believe because I know it's happened to other people as well. So, anyway, how did you deal with all that?
It actually, honestly, it just kind of showed a bright light on who was actually in my corner, basically. There were a lot of people that surprised me. There were a lot of people that surprised me. I got unfriended pretty quickly by a bunch of people. I think there was a post or two about what had happened, and, like I said, it was kind of made out to be, I just crushed this person, and I had lied, and I had manipulated, and stuff like that. When I was really just trying to be honest about, this just isn't for us. It isn't for me. If it's not for me, it's probably not for you either. Maybe you don't see it right now at the moment, but if we're not both 100% on this, then it's just not meant to be for either one of us. But I was really trying to take the high road, so it hurt, but at the same time, I was just like, you know what? It just kind of shines a light on the people that truly are in my corner, or Team Lacy. And so now I think I'm actually better for it. I actually know who stuck by me and stuff. There was a lot of like petty back and forth stuff with like people like taking pictures of my sending my comments that way and stuff like that, and people would tell me what he's posting and stuff like that, and
Well, and I imagine when you're in a relationship with someone who's somewhat prolific in the community, that as the person who's not as prolific, you feel like a lot of the people that talk to you because of them, not because of you.
Exactly.
And that they're the more significant part, and that you don't really have a claim to those friendships. And
right. And you guys were a part of that too. I just figured you guys were out with it too, not that or that you had ever even said anything that would make me feel that way, but I just assumed that this was a group that was established before I came in, and so now I just have to make my exit, and they're all just going to kind of stick together. And even through some communications after the fact, it was kind of portrayed that way to me, that people were very sympathetic to him and stuff like that, and that I just needed to kind of move on. So
right. Back to me.
Back to you, Spin.
My answer to the question about whether or not I think it would have worked, my relationship would have worked out differently with or without weight loss surgery is kind of twofold. I guess no. I believe I would have ended up divorced anyway. I have not talked a lot about my divorce because my ex-husband and I are good friends, and I want it to stay that way, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's a good person. He just wasn't my person. But I will say that I knew that I wanted divorced probably 7 years ago, and part of me, and this is the honest to God truth, and I hope he never hears this because it misrepresents the amount that I care about him as a person. Part of me was afraid, since I think my ex-husband is attractive and thin and charismatic and all of that stuff, that if we got divorced, if I left him, he would end up with someone pretty quickly, and I would spend the rest of my life alone. Like, I legitimately thought that over 3 bills, that I would be alone and he wouldn't. And being with him, because I enjoyed his company, he's my friend, being with him was better than being with no one. And so when I made the decision to have weight loss surgery, that's just honest. That's actually really hard for me to say because I care about him so much still. And he's a good person, but that's the truth of what being fat felt like to me. That my choice was the relationship I was in or nothing, because I didn't believe that anyone would ever love me enough to have another relationship. When I made the decision to have weight loss surgery, this is how I describe it, because I got questioned a lot. I mean, I asked for a divorce 4 months after having surgery. I was engaged 2 months after that, and now I'm remarried, and I had surgery 13 and a half months ago. I mean, that's like, that absolutely happened very quickly. Like, I have no, it did. I tell people this, when I decided to have weight loss surgery, that was actually an ancillary decision. My primary decision was to change my life and to no longer believe that okay was good enough. the action steps for that decision were like, one of them was to have weight loss surgery, one of them was to have divorce, like to get divorced and to have a relationship that was right for me. So did I ask for a divorce after weight loss surgery? Absolutely. Would that have happened anyway? Probably. It probably would have happened 2 or 3 years from now if I hadn't have had weight loss surgery. So I think weight loss surgery sped up the timeline. But I don't think I asked for a divorce because I decided to have weight loss surgery. I think I asked for a divorce because I decided to change my life. And that was one of many action steps associated with that choice. So that's how I explain it. I get a lot of questions. People ask, because you know what, the divorce rate for weight loss surgery is noticeable. I mean, it's big enough that there are articles about it. But I've always heard it described as the divorce rate after weight loss surgery is high, but it's no higher than it is for any other major life change. So if there's a death in the family, or if you move across the country, or any other major life change, there's a high divorce rate. And weight loss surgery is akin to those, but yes, it is higher than normal. So crickets. Okay.
That's all I have.
Damn, I silenced the crowd. You two are chatty too. If I set you fuckers up, I'm in trouble. Okay, Lacy, this one is not for you, but be pretty anyway. Mama Mia VSG asked, what are the hostesses' top 5? I warned you about this, Sarah, so you'd be prepared.
Yep, I got notes.
Top 5 tips for not effing up your life. And how do they differ from Lacy? Do you want to go first?
Sure, why not? Okay, here we go. So, 5 things that you need to do. Number 1 for me, and not necessarily in order of importance, but is to understand what's going on after you have surgery. So I said this, but there's no alleged like hormonal issues. There are hormonal issues. This is a scientific fact. Again, you can Google it if you want. For women, especially, estrogen is the hormone that makes you crazy and emotional. It is stored in your fat, and when you burn fat, those hormones come out. That is not alleged. That is what happens, and that is why we all go through these emotional ups and downs when losing weight. It's not just a weight loss surgery thing. Anyone who has rapid weight loss, that same thing will happen. So you need to understand and expect that you are going to have emotional ups and downs, and you need to be ready for that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help you deal with it, but at least you're going to be aware of the fact that that's going to happen. The second thing for me is to get help with that if you need it. You know, I myself have gone through issues with anxiety and depression post-surgery. I had issues before, so this isn't something new. I went through postpartum depression after my second baby. This was very similar, and again, I completely think that it's hormonally related. But it's also very common among weight loss surgery patients to deal with anxiety and depression. And if you need help, whether that's counseling, whether it's medication, whatever, you need to get it. That will help you when it comes to, you know, your decision making and all of those things, is just to overall good mental health. Just like you're focusing on your physical health, you can't, you know, disregard your mental health as well, because it's all related. The third one is not to rush into anything. So, you know, I've heard it said too, well, don't make any big decisions that first year after surgery. I don't think you have to not make any big decisions, but I think it's important to maybe be slightly more cautious than you normally would be, in just, especially if you are a person who doesn't necessarily think things through and does work off of emotion. Just like Lacy said, you know, just to sort of give things an extra little bit of thought, or think about why you're doing things versus just going out and doing them. But on the flip side, and I think, Lacy, you talked about this too, you do need to trust your gut. I found myself being afraid to make decisions because I was like, oh my God, am I just doing this because I've lost weight, or because I'm emotional, or because of this, or because of that? I mean, I remember feeling like, you know, people are, and this was way before anything actually happened, probably 4 to 6 months after surgery, talking to a friend about believing that my marriage was over, and saying to him, I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want people to be like, oh, Sarah, she lost weight and then she left her husband. You know, like, it wasn't just about what people thought, but it was about being concerned that even though I had already been talking about it before I had surgery, that somehow I couldn't make a decision. So you do definitely have to, trust your gut if your gut is really telling you to do something or not do it. The fifth one is something that the lovely Sarah Spoon / Sarah Waffle taught me, which is that you need to be brave and you need to be courageous. And in the end, if there's a decision that you have to make, you need to just go all in, and you need to be, the person that most of us couldn't be when we were overweight. A lot of us are worried about, how things will look to other people and pleasing everyone else and not ever doing things for ourselves. And I think when you do have to make those important decisions in your life, you need to be brave and strong and courageous and do it for you and not be so concerned about everyone else. Ultimately, the people who matter in your life need you to be okay with you so that you can be okay for them. So that's my 5 things.
Oh, that's a good 5. My 5, the first one is actually one of Lacy's, and that's to prepare people in your life for your changes. And that is all people. It's not just your spouse. It's not just your friends. Frankly, it involves yourself too. Prepare yourself, prepare your spouse, prepare parents, friends for changes, because you are going to need them at some point. And one of the things, actually, we just had our wedding reception last weekend, and I talked to the people after Waffle did a fantastic musical performance.
Yes, he did.
I said, one of the things I said was that, we made this decision to have surgery for ourselves, and it's not lost on Chris and I that it was not easy for the other people in our lives. If they think that we think they weren't affected, they're wrong. It has probably in many ways been harder on the other people in my life than it is on me, because this is a fulfillment of a dream for me, for a life that I always wanted, for something I thought was out of my grasp. And for other people, they have absolutely no control over the process, and they just have to sit back and watch people that they've fallen in love with change rapidly, and that is incredibly difficult. And I know that almost everyone in my life, from my friends to my parents, my kids, have watched me change and had no control over it. And I don't think that I did a good job of telling them that was going to happen. It's like it took them as much by surprise as it took me. So definitely tell people in your life that you're going to change rapidly, and that you still want them in your life. And there are going to be times when you don't do a good job of reaching out to them, but no matter how rapidly you're changing, they are always welcome to reach out to you. So that's my number 1. Number 2, if you find yourself, I'm looking at you, not you, Lacy, because you're on my screen and you're beautiful, but you, other people, if you find yourself getting on a soapbox early on, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you are delusional. You are... You are, and actually, I can say this because I have a video that I cannot watch of myself, because I get on the biggest fucking soapbox of all time, and I know that if I watch it now, I will hate myself for saying all of it, so I just don't watch it. It's a good video, though. You should.
It is a good video.
You are never safe from divorce, ever. That has nothing to do with weight loss surgery. There are 2 people in a marriage, and you can only control yourself. So it doesn't matter how good you think your marriage is, weight loss surgery or not. If you ever have a moment in your relationship where you think you are 1,000% safe from divorce, you're wrong. So don't get on a soapbox about relationships. The best piece of marital advice I ever got, actually there were 2. Number 1 is that you should laugh more than you cry, because you're going to do both, but just make sure you're laughing more. And the second one, of someone that had been married a very, very long time, said that the secret to their marriage was that they never both fell out of love at the same time. And there will be times in your marriage when you're madly in love, and there will be times in your marriage where you're just getting by and you could give a fuck. And frankly, the person you're with will annoy the piss out of you. And the secret is to never fall out of love at the same time, because someone always has to be willing to fight. So, and always be aware of your vulnerability. You're super vulnerable. So if you are on a soapbox early on in your surgery, check yourself, because it's coming. And it might not come the same way it came for me, and it might not come the same way it came for Lacy. But really, if you are so delusional that you're on a soapbox, then it's going to hit you harder. You know what I mean? Be really self-aware in this process because being successful requires that self-awareness. My number 3 is to know the reality of your relationship before you have surgery. Before you go under the knife, really have a gut check with yourself about whether your marriage is good or bad. And if it's good, commit to that until you get to goal. Or I would frankly say within 6 months of goal, because things are going to continue to change. It doesn't matter how close to goal you are, your life changes very rapidly in this process. If your marriage is bad, acknowledge that. Know that surgery is going to change that one way or the other. It's either going to force you to fix it or it's going to rip it apart. It's going to do one of two things if your marriage is bad before surgery. And so be prepared for that. Know what it is, and just have that gut check. I think that's really important. So if before you have surgery you say my marriage is good, commit to that and don't let anything break that. If before surgery you think your marriage is bad, know that it's going to go one of two ways and it's a wild ride. No matter which way it goes. My number 4 is to not do anything for anyone else. And this sounds counter to what Lacy said, because Lacy in her videos talked a lot about being selfish and about feeling like she was selfish and she hadn't taken other people's feelings into consideration. That is not exactly what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is do not leave your spouse for someone else. Don't. If you're going to leave your spouse out for marriage, leave your spouse for yourself. And don't, if you are in an affair, an emotional affair or anything else for so long that you're only leaving because you believe this other relationship is going to work out, you're doing it wrong. You need to be willing to leave that marriage regardless of how the other relationship works out, because your incentive should be because the relationship isn't right for you, not because you're going to fall into someone else. Does that make sense, what I just said?
It does to me, clearly. I mean, that's what I was worried about.
And kind of a part B to that is accept feedback on your life choices, good and bad, because you are not entirely trustworthy in this process, but the people in your life that you know and trust love you. And if the feedback you're getting is, I will tell you this, people weren't always super on board with me going from my ex-husband to Chris. And I understand why. But not a single person in my life told me that I shouldn't divorce my husband. Right? Do you hear what I'm saying? So accept the feedback and know that the people that loved you before surgery love you after surgery, and they want the best for you. And since you can't be entirely trustworthy, allow other people to be your life preserver in this process. And if all you're getting is feedback that your life choice is wrong, pause for a second and reflect on that. Maybe that means you need to slow your roll, right? And number 5 is to get professional help and find a therapist that you like before shit hits the fan, because it will. And it might hit the fan in another way. It might not be affair related. It might be career related. It might be, self-esteem related. It could be anything. But at some point, this journey is going to catch up to you, because the bottom line is we're all in a position to have weight loss surgery because something is fucked up here, And if you watch other people and say, oh, man, at least I'm not doing that, again, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you're doing something. Because we all ended up morbidly obese. We all ended up to qualifying for surgery in one fashion or another. So do not think you're immune to having problems, and don't judge other people's problems. Know that you are fucked up in the head, and that's why you had weight loss surgery, and find someone to help you work through the process. That's my 5. Longest 5 ever. I like lists.
But so delightful.
I like lists. Next question. Oh, this is your favorite one, Sarah, and I guess we kind of already talked about it. I don't have anything to say about it because you already said something about it, but I'll let Lacy talk about it. Lizette RNY Morales says, okay, here's my question mark. I don't seem to understand the alleged hormonal issues. I don't continue seeing my old fat self, don't have issues with the better looking girl I see in the mirror. I'm enjoying every minute of my new self and feel like I love my hubby even more than before surgery, and all the new things I can do, want to do with him. Want to do with / to him. Rawr, Lizette. There you go. I can't help but think people are making decisions out of emotions. Right or wrong, I see a bunch of peeps confused after weight loss surgery, wanting to leave their husbands' families and can't quite understand that. Makes me think they are having issues even before weight loss surgery, and it just happens to come out to light life, I assume she means light, after weight loss surgery. By the way, I've been married 20 years this August and have 2 kiddos, one of those with special needs. Love your videos, Lacy, and why. I'm curious, I don't know, do either of you know her and how long ago she had surgery?
I don't know exactly. And I mean, I'm always wary when someone says, I haven't had any issues at all, because I literally don't know anyone that has had no issues. So I'm not, and that's not like accusatory, that's not saying it's not possible to not have issues, it's just that I know a lot of people in the community, I know a lot of people who've had weight loss surgery. I have never heard someone say that there wasn't something about this process that messed them up in one way or another. So if that's the case, then more power to you, because most of us do have issues at one point or another, but for some people it comes out way later. I think about someone like VSG Tanya, who has talked about the fact that for her the sort of emotional mental struggle didn't happen for like 2 years after surgery. So you're never, I guess, safe from things shit hitting the fan, as Boone would say. That's just from my point of view. But Lacy, what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, she kind of hit on a bunch of the points in her comments about marriages having problems before are the ones that usually end up ending. I mean, that's kind of a given in what we've been talking about. Also, the hormonal issues. She may not believe in them, but you know, we've all felt them, and we were talking about you can Google them. I mean, it's a scientific fact, but also making decisions based on emotions. I mean, I talk about that like all the way through my video. So I mean, she kind of hit on those things. I think that's great for her. I mean, maybe her hormones boosted her into super happy overdrive. You know, it didn't do that for me, but I think
I found it curious that she said that she has no idea about hormonal issues and that jointly she loves her husband now more than before. I mean, couldn't that be hormones? I mean, like, that's just me.
Yeah, exactly.
No hate, no hate on her. Like no hate. I'm just curious.
Not at all. I mean, I think it's great. I think that some people in some marriages probably do grow stronger. If they've got their spouse involved and their spouse is as actively, you know, going through this process with them and being supportive and stuff like that. I think any marriage would probably grow stronger through all of this whenever you go through this together. Just like
I absolutely know there's people who feel that their marriage is stronger, their relationship is stronger. And I mean, I know there's people who, I will say this about people who get into relationships after weight loss surgery. I know of, and I know personally, a lot of people who have ended relationships after surgery. I don't know anyone who's regretted it. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know anyone who's regretted ending their relationship, and I know a lot of people who feel like their new relationships are stronger because of the changes that they've made personally after weight loss surgery, because they know more about themselves, because they understand what they want, because they're willing to speak up, all of those things. So I'm not saying it's the right choice for anyone, but I'm just saying I don't really know anyone who's ever regretted ending a relationship, because generally speaking, it's people who are already having problems that are ending those relationships.
Lacy, did you get to say everything you wanted to say?
Yeah, well, just one quick other thing. The whole thing about, you know, I'm absolutely happy with myself. I'm happy with the changes. I'm happy with the new me. I'm happy at all of the NSVs that I'm reaching now. So that part of it, you know, I'm completely happy with my new body and the new person that's kind of come out through this. I think it's just more of the, you know, the hormonal and emotional type issues. And all of that with me personally, not everybody else. And I kind of said that in my video. A lot of people are probably stronger than me, have a stronger mind, have more logic, and aren't so vulnerable. All of that stacked onto my vulnerability and my emotional tendencies was a recipe for disaster. And I think if I had actually like reached out to somebody and kind of had a gut check before I had surgery, like, this is what I need to expect. What are my weaknesses? What is it about me that could lead to disaster in this process? That would have been really, really helpful to me personally. So in the videos, whenever I talk about everything, it's just me talking about me personally and what happened to me. So.
Well, and what you said is really interesting. It was one of the questions I was going to ask you before. Then, surprise, I went on a tangent. is one of the things you talk about is the fact that your husband never stopped fighting for you. You shunned him, you told him no, you started a relationship with someone else, you were honest about what was happening. What do you think would have happened to your relationship if he didn't fight?
Oh, I would have gotten out the door. I think I still would have ended the other relationship.
That's what I
Uh,
was.
but I think we would have totally ended up breaking up, divorcing, and living separate lives. Absolutely. Um, as awesome and as perfect as he did deal with all of these things, he was on autopilot as well. Like we were both just completely on autopilot. We were not in any way meeting each other's needs. We were neglecting
I
each other.
call that the complacency disease, Lacy.
Yeah, yeah. So we were both just kind of completely checked out. We both, I mean, it's not that we didn't love each other. I mean, we're each other's best friends. We're each other's people that we've been married 10 years in December. It's not that we didn't love each other. It's just that we had just completely checked out from each other. So immediately, as soon as I came to him with the decision, I'm leaving you. This is over. Where's the paperwork? Basically, let's split up everything. Let's figure out custody arrangements. Everything. This is going to happen. Immediately, it was like a wake-up call, and it was the wake-up call that I had never given him before. I should have given him that wake-up call before. I owed that to him, and I owed that to myself, but I just never did it before. This relationship, kind of piled onto everything, kind of sped that process up and made that happen. But yeah, it was definitely a wake-up call for him, and so he immediately was just like, oh my gosh, and he started immediately trying to make the changes that he knew. The funny thing is that I always tease him about this. It's like he just completely did a 180 into this person that was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Where have you been? Like, it almost made me mad whenever I was in this relationship and I had decided to leave. It made me mad. I'm like, wait a second, you knew all this time the things that you should have been doing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do this and show this to me and show these new characteristics to me and stuff. But
I still laugh about that with my ex-husband. He and I had problems for years and years and years, and it was the same problem over and over again. And what the difference is between your relationship and mine is that I had given my ex-husband the wake-up call a number of times and was complacent and just let him not take accountability for not making changes. He had no reason to make changes at some point because I stayed there no matter what. But also, when I told him I wanted a divorce, he didn't fight me. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't ever going to pull the trigger, but he wasn't really all that upset that I did. And that's a sign that your marriage is ready to end. That's the difference. When someone's willing to fight, then you should pay attention and wonder why they're willing to fight that hard.
Someone asked, I think, about relationship advice at one point, and what I was going to say was...
That's the next question. Do you want me to just go there?
Well, no, because this wasn't actually on my list of things, but a bonus, this whole hours and hours of conversations that Will and I have had about our marriage ending, and I don't want to speak for him, but I don't think he would mind me saying this. He, one of the things that he identified was that he never told me what he needed. He just assumed I should know what I was supposed to do. Like, I should know what he needed me to do or to say to make him feel a certain way or whatever it was. And clearly, I'm not a mind reader. He didn't feel like he needed to communicate to me, this is what I need. And that sort of goes along with what both of you were talking about. I think generally, to make any relationship work, you need to be able to say to the other person, you need to be vulnerable enough to say, this is what I need. This is me, and I need this from you. I need you to express your love in this way. I need to feel whatever it is, I need to feel beautiful. I need you to tell me. I need you to do things for me. Whatever. Everybody receives love or interprets love in different ways. For some people, it's actions. For some people, it's words. For some people, it's touch, whatever. You need to tell your partner how they have to show you, how they have to prove to you that they're interested, that they're in love, that they care for you. Because if they're doing that wrong for you, then you can misinterpret that and, it gets to a point where you can't save that. And I don't know that that would have ultimately made a difference, but that was one thing that came out in our conversations that I thought was really important and taught me a valuable lesson moving forward into another relationship. So.
Good stuff. Agreed. Lacy, the next question is from Gracie, No One's Stopping Me. I would love to know the top 3 things each of you would recommend doing to strengthen your relationship and help your spouse understand this entire process for the new pre-op and post-op people.
Top 3 things. Are you really asking the right people this question? Well,
I'm like, well.
I'm definitely not an expert, as we can tell. So the first one would definitely be my first tip on my videos would be like just including them in the process. I think that spouses need to be in those appointments with you, with the surgeon, maybe even, maybe even, and my husband kind of talked about this before, maybe even looking at going to like a family counseling session beforehand. Like, let's check in, you know what I mean? And I think that there's a lack of psychology professionals that are kind of versed in weight loss surgery and what are the symptoms and outcomes and things that can happen, all the emotional stuff that can happen because of weight loss surgery. So, I mean, I think that's something that should be included in your pre-op program. You know, I know we have the psych eval, but I mean, you really don't get into all of this in that.
I don't know anyone that thinks the psych eval is helpful or legitimate other than to make sure you're not positively insane.
Yeah, that's pretty much all they care about.
Exactly.
In terms of preparing you for surgery, it's virtually useless. It's just to protect their own ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, and actually the doctor at my support group, when we have the psychologist, it's interesting because our psychologist in the bariatric program at the support group I go to had weight loss surgery. But that's so unusual. That's so unusual.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What else, Lise?
So, okay, maybe including them in the process, maybe even the family counseling thing, and then also just talking to them about how you're feeling all the way along, you know, letting them know, how, you know, my hormones are going crazy today, I'm just sad, leave me alone. Or, you know, I'm really happy today, let's go out. Just kind of including them, not shutting them out. I mean, that was a big problem with me. I always have a tendency to isolate. And so just kind of letting them in on all of that stuff, letting them know where your head's at all the time. Because they can't guess. You know, you can never guess what's in another person's head, what's in another person's heart at any given moment. As well as you do know them, you can still never just, you know, kind of figure things out. And our expectation for them to know without us telling them is completely unreasonable. Like, we kind of already talked about that. So.
Agreed. I'm going to go next, Sarah, since you just talked.
Yes, please do.
My number 1 is to have a no-holds-barred conversation about fears, hopes, and the dirty truth about being fat. So before surgery, just have no one will be punished for what they say. Let's lay it all out on the table because our life is about to rapidly change. Tell me about what your fears are about me having surgery. I'm going to tell you about what my fears are about me having surgery, what my hopes are, the ways you hope our lives will change after surgery. I never asked my husband that, to be honest. I mean, these are things I didn't ask him, but in retrospect, would have been helpful through the process. Even though I think our relationship ultimately would have ended, I think the transition through those few months before we got divorced would have been better for me and for him. And also the truth about being fat. So one conversation that I had with my parents that I never had with my ex-husband is the real ways in which being morbidly obese affected me. It was something that, because my husband didn't have food issues and he was always like perpetually 165 pounds and 6'2", even when all he did was eat beef, beer, and bacon and bread, like even when that was the case, I felt so much shame over what being fat was like that I wouldn't even share that with him. And I really think that if he and I had had that conversation, it would have been easier for him to get on board with weight loss surgery. And he did hear a lot. I talked to him a lot, but I never really, I mean, there were some dirty truths about morbid obesity that he and I never talked about. And then as a part of that too, to listen to your partner without being defensive, to be able to hear your partner say, I'm afraid you're going to have an affair. I'm afraid you're going to get thin and not want me anymore. To be able to hear that without being defensive so that you can talk about it and really get to the root of it, and to have daily and weekly check-ins and gut checks before and after surgery. Really set aside time, because those conversations won't always happen organically because you're both rapidly changing so much. Your life is changing so much. And I know for me, right after surgery, I was so completely consumed with how many ounces of water I had and what my protein intake was, I wasn't really paying attention to my feelings, you know? And so it had to deliberately be set aside for me to talk about my feelings. And if I had done that, that would have been of benefit to me and him. Number 2 is to accept that part of this process is selfish. Prepare for that and get your partner prepared for that. I don't think anyone in my life was prepared for how absolutely selfish I would be. Not in a bad way, but I had never been selfish before. I was always all about someone else, and they needed to be ready for me to do that so that they could give me gut checks, the gut checks that I needed, and talk to me and check in on me. And number 3 is to connect with other couples that have had weight loss surgery. There are actually a lot of them out there, or couples where one partner has had weight loss surgery. Engage in communities together. Have them in your videos, have them involved in a +1 crew, have them have their own weight loss surgery Facebook page. And I wrote here Exhibit A, like I was in court. I don't know what that's about. Exhibit A, if you don't want your partner to see what you're doing, you're probably already fucking up. So,
Yes,
so
completely.
you need to have them. I mean, I know that for me, I left Ty before I developed a relationship with Chris, but Ty wasn't on my weight loss surgery Facebook page. I could have been doing anything over there, and he would have had no idea who I was talking to, what comments were made. And I think that a partner can tell when something's slightly off kilter before it goes way off kilter. Like maybe your husband could have noticed that you were flirting before you were all the way in,
Yeah.
right? And if you had invited him into the community and had him be a part of it, you may not have made some of the choices that you made because there would have been like Big Brother's watching, you know, your husband's watching.
Absolutely.
And it's when you do things in secret, they're dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just say from the beginning, have them a part of it, because you are going to be tempted at some point. I don't know anyone that wasn't tempted at some point. And if your marriage is important to you, allow that person to watch to reduce the temptation. That's my 3.
Well, I mean, mine I think are really similar to what you guys have already said, but I'll say the following. I did all 3 of these things in my marriage, and we all saw what happened. So I don't know that I'm the right person to answer this question, but I think that things were probably maybe a little too far gone before this happened. But the first one is communicate. Just talk to your partner about everything. Just like Lacy said, you know, how you're feeling that day, how you feel about yourself, what your mood is, all that stuff. Just talk, share, be honest. Share your journey with them and let them share their journey with you. I think that's super important too. Let them talk to the people that you're talking to. Let them have their own Facebook page. Let them hang out with people. You know, let them in. Let them share the experience with you. It's going to be such a big part of your life. It is not only hard to go through it by yourself, but it is unfair to your partner to push them away and try and embrace this whole other thing without including them. I think that can only lead to resentment, honestly. I don't know that there's any other way that ends, because when so much of your life revolves around this change, even if you're not part of the community, but just the whole change that weight loss surgery brings, you need to include your partner in that. And the last one is to be 100% honest and authentic with your partner. I think that's, you know, along with communicating, you need to communicate in the right way, which is you need to be vulnerable and transparent and honest about everything. That's the only way that it's going to work. You can't say what you think they want to hear. If your partner tells you, you know, I'm afraid you're going to get skinny and cheat on me, you can't say, no, there's absolutely no chance that would ever happen if you know that maybe it would. You need to have an honest conversation about it. You owe it to them to discuss it with them. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like that sort of goes along with the communication thing, too, is you do need to be honest. As much as sometimes that can be difficult, it can be painful, it can feel like you're being hurtful or you're being selfish. It doesn't work unless you're honest about what's going on.
Just a few more questions, and I think they're shorter ones. Some of them I don't need to chime in on. I know we're coming up on like a bajillion hours. But, VSG for me, VSG for me, space, VSG. Do you think there is a difference if one of the people is well over a year out versus two people that just had surgery and are starting to experience this new world and new body? And I don't know. I assume she means that you're way out and Lacy and I are closer in, or I that's the way I interpret the question. But
well,
Sarah?
I was thinking she meant like in the 2 weight loss surgery patient thing. So like me and Chris and you and Waf are much like the opposite, but we're way further apart in surgery. Whereas in Lacy's situation, they were closer together in when
I see.
And that's how I interpreted it anyway. Like whether there's a difference if the person that you're dating is
in
also
that case, I do have something to say.
Yeah.
And that is that, yes, I absolutely do think it is, because the first 6 months especially they go by in a blink. It's complete chaos. It happens. It's like, I describe it like this. Like, you know how in Mario Kart, nerd alert, in Mario Kart, sometimes you're driving your car and you're like, do, and then sometimes you get on like one of those arrow thingies that are like turbo boosts, and you're like, pachoo! And then like, well, it's like, this is what I felt like. Like I was like, do, and then I'd hit a turbo boost and I'd fly off, and then you have to kind of re-get your balance again. And then the minute I re-got my balance, I was shot the other direction on turbo boost. Like I felt like I had no control over which direction I was doing, and it was the most that I could do to just breathe and make sure my head was above water. So if you are both like that, you are probably far more susceptible to making choices that aren't representative of your actual wants or needs or who you are as a person. In my case, Chris was about 2.5 years out from surgery when we met, and he had been through everything I had been through and had stabilized. And he actually was extra afraid that I was making choices that I would later regret, because he knew that he did. So he was super conscientious about it and really aware of how vulnerable I was and respected that, and was actually maybe held back a little bit in the beginning because he knew how fucked up his head was the first 6 months after surgery and didn't want to take advantage of that in me. Whereas when you're both in that place, you're just like, it's like you met on a roller coaster and you're like, woo! That's my thought.
I'll just chime in before I let Lacy answer, because basically my situation is very similar to Sarah's, except the opposite. So I'm 21 months out, and my Chris is like 7 months out, or almost, 7.5. So, and that thought crossed my mind too, I have to say. And I won't say that I'm like totally okay. I mean, even where I am, I still have my moments of, craziness. But because I knew Chris before he had surgery, so we started talking 6 weeks before he had his surgery, and we've been close all along. I felt more comfortable in the fact that I didn't think he was doing something crazy out of character or what have you. But it's not like it never crossed my mind, like, And I do think that for men it is slightly different. I'm not saying that they aren't susceptible to the same things, but I think that maybe it's not quite the same when it comes to emotions and that sort of thing. But it definitely crossed my mind. But I think it would be different, and that's a good segue to Lacy answering. I think if we were both 7 months out, this would be a complete disaster. Like, I don't think I would have gone there at all, because too much. What do you think, Lace?
It probably should be said that neither one of us were a year out whenever all of this started. So we were both crazy messed up in the head. So it was a disaster. Absolutely. I can't really speak to being a year out or not yet, because I'm not. So I look forward to that. I look forward to things. And I think things have definitely stabilized a lot I'm 10 months out, so but I think that it's going to stabilize even more. I mean, I still um, just the transition, just the like Spoon was saying about um, 6 months after goal. You know, once you reach your goal, there's still going to be some transitions to reaching your goal and adapting to your new life at goal. So, you know, I think that I've got a while before things stabilize, but yeah, us two together was just a disaster, and neither one of us were a year out. So I think it would make a huge difference, absolutely.
And I think as an aside to that, my experience, and maybe this is the same for you guys or different, is that there comes a point when you're a more normal size, when people don't look at you like you're obese. And I think things really start to stabilize about then, but you continue to go through transitions.
Yeah.
But up until you are a somewhat normal size and fit in, and people don't look at you like you're obese and don't treat you like you're obese, it is like being, I describe it to people all the time, it's like being on an alien planet, like a bizarro world, where technically, on paper, your life is exactly the same, but absolutely nothing about your life is the same. You know, I drive to work the same way. I talk to the same people. I live in the same house. I grocery shop at the same places. I see the same parents at PTA. But nothing about the way those things interact with me is the same. So you feel like you are living in a bizarre universe, and you need to give yourself some time to adapt to that, because regardless of whether or not you have hormonal issues or marital problems, learning to live in the exact same world but differently, it's like I have culture shock all the time. It's like I still deal with it. I still have culture shock. You know, instead of being a foreign exchange student, I'm skinny. But it's like it takes time to adjust to your new environment. Second to last question from RNY Kim, and this is for you, Lace. How is your relationship with your husband now after everything you've been through? You've kind of talked about it quite a bit, but
Yeah, I kind of touched on that. We're in a really good place right now. We're still working on things and working some things out. We've both made some really, really positive changes. So to me, it's only looking up at this point. And you know, I'm introducing him into the community, and you know, he's feeling more comfortable with things. So I think we have nowhere to go but up at this point. So
I'm going to ask you this. How involved were people in your real life in the changes you made and the new relationship you had found yourself in, and the leaving your husband and then coming back? And I mean, you talked about how the community adapted to you coming back and happening publicly, but what about other people? What about your friends that you and your husband had together, and your family that obviously was connected? And
yeah, I thought it was really good what you said about trusting the people in your life to tell you about what's going on. There was not one single person in my life that was on board with the decisions that I was making in any way, shape, or form. My family, my mom, my brother, any of those people in my immediate family, they were not cool with this. My friends, my really close friends, in reality, they were not okay. I mean, they were they were trying to have an intervention for me. That's how bad it got. You know, seriously. And while you know, when you're in it at the time, you just think people just don't want to see you be happy or don't want to see you change. You just think they're used to you being a certain way, and now you're different, and they'll just have to kind of get on board as you go. But I should have trusted that more. I should have trusted that not one single person in my life was like, okay, yeah, I understand that this is coming from someplace and that you weren't happy in your marriage, and now you need to take the steps to be happy. Not one person signed off on it. When I came back and made the decision to stay, we've had nothing but support. Nothing but support.
Right.
I mean, I think everybody was just like, oh, finally, she's got her mind back. She's she's back from crazy town. And, you know, a lot of people in my life, and I've kind of mentioned this on my videos before, I knew no one in my entire life that had weight loss surgery. No one in any of my circles had weight loss surgery, and no one in any of my people's circles had weight loss surgery. So I was kind of the test case for everybody around me.
My husband. I just told him that I needed a refill, and look, he brought me one.
Aw. Time to unwind.
Waff is the best. Bye, Waff.
I am the best.
Are you watching Drunk History?
Yeah, we're done. We're watching a show about conjoined twins.
Oh, I'm sorry I'm missing out.
With their moms.
Yeah, really. We need to like wrap this up so you can go watch that because that sounds amazing.
No, sorry, Lacy, I didn't mean to interrupt, but also I did.
Okay.
No, that's true. I mean, like I said, people in my life didn't object to me getting divorced because it was obvious that had needed to happen for a long time, but and I needed to listen to those people because I trusted those people before surgery. And if you trust someone before surgery and then suddenly you find yourself rejecting their advice, check yourself because that doesn't make sense. Am I right? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I would say the same thing. My very close friends were not. A lot of people were surprised because we hid our issues very well. However,
a lot of people were surprised, but
yeah. But my very close friends were not surprised at all. And also my very close friends were not surprised about my new relationship either. So.
CCM says, I'm new to the community and still deciding if I want to do videos and get engaged in the community. If you had to do it again, would you still do the videos and engage in Facebook? And I think this is specifically for you, Lacy, since it caused trouble for you.
I think this is an awesome question.
I think it is. That's why I saved it for last.
Seriously, it's like the best question I've gotten. You know, and I actually thought about this question all day today. I think that the support from the community and the friends that I've made in the community have been like so important. I probably would warn, you know, and I kind of talked about this in my video. I would, if I could go back in time and warn myself not to just go, you know, head over heels into it, and isolate my husband from it. Then, you know, yeah, I don't regret it at all. But I think that my vulnerabilities and my emotions at the time and me isolating from my husband caused it to be the catalyst that made this thing happen. I don't think it was just because of Facebook and because of YouTube. I am a person that likes to, I'm an oversharer. I tell people everything about myself. And so this was kind of a way for me to just put it all out there and just let people say what they wanted to say about me. And so it was actually, it's kind of therapeutic to me to do this. So I still really enjoy it. I stopped making videos for a long time in the aftermath of this, and I'm probably going to get back into making more. But to say that I regret it, it's hard for me to say that I regret any of this stuff because it's led to the point that I'm at now. And the point that I'm at now is really good. You know, it caused all of these issues to be addressed. It caused me it caused light to be shed on some things in me that I need to change. So to say I regret it, no, I can't say that. But I would just caution everybody else just to be very careful about who they trust, very careful about oversharing information, and just very careful about, you know, going into your surgery process and how vulnerable you are those first few months afterwards, and to not let yourself be kind of taken in by the, you know, the community and the, you know, the let the fame bug bite you, I guess, you know, wanting to be known, wanting to be out there, wanting to be a face and a name. So somebody said something to me about, you know, actually it was my husband, I think, or no, I was talking to my husband about, I'm afraid people might think that I'm trying to just be out there and get more YouTube subscribers and stir up stuff. And that's not what it's about at all. Who would put themselves out there like this and claim, you know, this is like the dumbest mistake I've ever made in my life. Like, I don't want to be famous for this. I don't want to be known for this. And so now I'm going to be known as the girl who, like, freaking had an affair and screwed over her husband and went crazy. And, you know, like, I don't want to be that statistic. So the reason I put this all out there was to basically hopefully stop somebody else from getting to this point. And I have gotten such a crazy response to this. So many PMs from people who are newbies that are saying thank you for the advice, or so many. I've gotten a bunch of PMs from people in a similar situation that are already in these types of relationships. And to me, that's the jackpot right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To actually be able to give some advice and shed some light on these situations that a person is already in.
Yeah, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but obviously I'm about to. I did the opposite thing of you, which is really interesting. When I started, when I ended my marriage and started a relationship, I made a couple more videos, and then I pretty much stopped making videos. And that was because people in my real life were struggling with the way I went about things, not with my choices, but really just a lot of gut checks. And I said, the people in my life that I need to lean into for support are not the people that watch my YouTube videos. And some people that watch my YouTube videos, I did, obviously, Sarah and Team VSG and Fat Kings, like I still talk to regularly long after I stopped making videos. But I was afraid that what I would do is I would fall into this support where I was getting all the feedback I wanted and not really facing the questions. So I kind of stepped away from it because I felt like I owed it to the people I love to take the tough road and answer their questions and play it out. But same thing, I jokingly say that I was the face of weight loss surgery divorce because in terms of the people that had surgery within a year or so of me, I was kind of the first person that said, hey, guess what? I'm only 4 months out, and I asked my husband for a divorce. Like, my divorce was very public, and I was open about it and very upfront, and I cried a lot in YouTube world. And immediately, the sheer number of people that came to me, and you were one of them, Lacy. You and the other person started talking to me very early. Clearly, I gave you piss poor advice because I was in love. But the sheer number of people who are active in the community that are going through this, like, it blew me away. And I was uncomfortable with it because I was like, I can't even figure my own shit out. How am I going to, like, how am I going to help you? Like, I don't know up from down. Right now, I'm just happy I can breathe. I'm just happy that I'm waking up every morning and people don't hate me, and that's about the most I can ask for. But it is amazing how prolific this issue is and how secretly and silently it happens among people that you would never expect, that you think are solid or you think are this. So I think that's one of the reasons I love so much that you made the video, because I took a different path ultimately, but you need both sides of the story. You need the person that leaves their husband and is happy that they did it, but you also need the person that said, hey, I fucked up. And there wasn't that, because it's hard to take accountability for poor decisions publicly. Like, it's hard to do that. And so I would do it all over again, but I'm really glad I stepped away when I did, because I needed to make sure that I was making my decisions for the right reasons and not because I was getting positive feedback. Does that make sense? Do you have commentary on that, Chris Waffle?
No. All I gotta say, if this is a size queens, then somebody better provide the size, and that's me.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, my. So I guess we should say, if you want to see more of Chris Waffle and also Chris Ragucci on Size Queen Saturdays, as long as Sarah Spoon says it's still happening, I believe that we're going to do Sarah and Chris squared, a couples Size Queen on Saturday.
And the interesting follow-up to this, Size Queens, is people in relationships that left their husbands after weight loss surgery.
For musicians named Chris. So the moral of the story is, do not meet a musician named Chris, because it may affect your marriage.
Out with the old, in with the new.
My kids someday.
So, but we are going to talk about on Saturday, I believe around 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern, somewhere around there, in the afternoon, we are going to talk about what it's like to be in a relationship with a fellow weight loss surgery patient. So it's an interesting follow-up to this Size Queens.
It's hard.
It is hard.
And also difficult.
Just spoiler alert.
I left him with the kids for a few hours. He's clearly gone insane.
Yes. So I think we're literally almost at like 2 hours, so we probably should wrap up.
I'm sorry. I apologize to all of those that are still watching. This was the longest one we've had yet. And
You know, I like to go long and deep. I'm just saying. But also, I think this is really, really important. I think this is probably one of the more important things that we've talked about on the show, and so I really want to make sure we covered everything because I know a lot of people out there are interested.
Yes, and I can't say enough how impressed I am with Lacy. She's been open and vulnerable, and she told us ahead of time there were entire topics I avoided just for my own comfort. But she told us ahead of time that she was an open book, and it was important to us that this topic was talked about, and we could talk about anything. And I think that's she might be the first person that's ever said that like nothing was off limits to us. Because I always ask, just so you know, I always ask ahead of time, is anything off limits? I don't want to make you uncomfortable or make you feel pressured into talking about something. And she was really like, it's a completely open book, and so big ups to her. Big ups is clearly the word of the day, like Pee Wee Herman style. Big ups to Lacy and her husband for letting their story be a cautionary tale and a topic of conversation, and for being open and vulnerable, because that takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength. So
yeah, totally agree. So yeah, you're both awesome. I love you both. I think we
Alright, guys.
live in a commune. So yeah, that's it for Size Queen Saturdays on Wednesday.
Special edition.
So thanks to everyone for watching, and remember, it's good to be the queen.